right, welcome to Talking Investing. I am Tom, and as always, this is not financial advice. Today, I want to do a daily Bitcoin and Bitcoin miner update, weekend edition, special edition. I want to talk about exahash, the worldwide exahash, the difficulty level, and the exahash race that is going to go on in 2023. I also want to take a look back at what happened in 2022. This has a major impact on the Bitcoin miners. So we're going to go through a bunch of things. I got a bunch of new charts. So if you're new to the channel, please remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Also, if everybody could please smash the like button. Lastly, you can become a member of the channel by hitting the join button on the YouTube page. That should be right next to the subscribe button. If you don't see it, there should be a link in the description below. Members get a bunch of extra content, including a Tuesday members-only live stream after the market closes. And on that live stream, the members get to pick a company for me to do a deep dive video on. So that's for members only. So we would love to have you there. We'd love to have you support the channel. Let's talk about Bitcoin. Let's talk about the exahash rate. And I want to review the year 2022 and look at what happened to the worldwide exahash rate and look at what effect it had on the Bitcoin miners, because we need to start projecting what's going to happen in 2023. Okay, so I'm going to start on this chart. This is the network hash rate, the global network hash rate for the Bitcoin network. So I want to point out two or three different things. Number one, you'll see essentially this trended up over time. There were some exceptions. If you look at June 17th, this hit a low of 162. If you remember, we had a flash crash with Bitcoin in June. So simultaneously with that flash crash, you see the exahash rate went way down. So this stuff moves in real time. If we get all the way here to October 31st, and Bitcoin had a nice rally in October. So on October 31st, the worldwide hash rate for the Bitcoin network was 316.78. That was an all-time record. So that day hit the all-time record in the history of Bitcoin. Once again, no coincidence that corresponded. We'll look at the chart later. That corresponded directly with the end of a rally for Bitcoin in late October. Okay, I'm just going to mention this one. This is an outlying event. On December 24th, the hash rate dropped drastically down to 156. This seemed to be an anomaly. I don't know what the explanation to this is. It was a one-day event. It self-corrected fairly quickly. I'm not sure why these day-to-day fluctuations happen, and sometimes there are anomalies. But in general, you can see this tends to move with the price of Bitcoin. Okay, so you'll see just a few days ago, we hit 327. That is a new all-time high on the network hash rate. So as the global hash rate goes up, we should expect to see the difficulty level continue to increase. So I want to take a look at what the difficulty level did over the course of the last year. Okay, so this is at BTC.com. So this is measuring the difficulty level. So you'll see here, this is the difficulty level. And I want to go back in time a little bit. I'm going to scroll down. So this is measuring all the difficulty level adjustments, which happen every 2 weeks. Now the goal is for a Bitcoin block to be mined every 10 minutes. If the network is beating that substantially, the difficulty level goes up, and vice versa. If it's taking too long to mine a block, the difficulty level goes down. Coming into 2022, you see the first adjustment on January 8th, 2022 was to 24 trillion. So that's this number right here. So 24.3 trillion. That was the difficulty level coming into the year. The final adjustment for the year in 2022 was made on December 19th, and that was to 35 trillion. So 35.3 trillion from approximately 24 trillion. So that's not quite 50%, but that's very close to a 50% increase in the difficulty level. So that's substantial, because remember, all of these Bitcoin miners are trying to add machines, add exahash rate while staying efficient so that they can get their share of Bitcoin. Well, it got 50% harder to mine a Bitcoin from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. Now, subsequent to that, you'll see we had just this last adjustment on January 15th was a big adjustment to the upside. It was a 10% adjustment up in the difficulty level. That went to 37.59 trillion. That's the all-time record difficulty level. That's now more than 50% over the course of the last year. And if I look at this chart, this is measuring how long each block has taken to be mined over the course of the last few weeks. So the next adjustment is January 29th. That is tomorrow. If things stay on track, it looks like we're going to go up another 4% to 39 trillion on the difficulty level. So that would be from 24 trillion in January of 2022 to 39 trillion in late January of 2023. So this is a massive increase. So you can see there's a reason why these companies put in such big purchase orders, why for a period of time they were trying to grow their exahash so aggressively. Now, the price of Bitcoin changed all of that. So that is something they're going to have to continue to contend with. Now, recently, we have been on a little rally in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is back up hovering around 23,000. It actually makes a big difference. When Bitcoin is at 16 or 17,000, a lot of these companies have very low margins. Some of them have no gross margin at all. So that extra $5,000 or $6,000 makes a big difference for most of the North American Bitcoin miners. This is an estimated total of just the 18 companies that I track that are publicly traded in North America. So this is the total amount of Bitcoin that all of them put together mined on a monthly basis. And I want to look at this because you would think with the amount of exahash that was added, I expected to see a lot more growth in this number. And you're going to see from the beginning of the year, in January of 2022, all of these companies together mined 4,153 Bitcoin. By December of 2022, so effectively, a year later, from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, they mined 5,084. So that's about a 24% increase. I would have expected to see more, and I do expect to see much more than that in 2023. So if I look at the same chart, I've circled three numbers. Bitcoin had a nice rally, and the amount of Bitcoin that was mined went up. Why? Because the math worked. It was profitable to mine Bitcoin. So this got up to 4,853. I mean, that's very close to the December number. Then, of course, Bitcoin's next rally was in August, where it rallied up to $25,000. So you can see a big jump up there again to back to 4,874. Then Bitcoin had a little rally in October. That was the final rally of the year. And that October was the best month of the year. 5,392 Bitcoin mined among the 18 companies that report. So you see at the end of the year, we actually finished at 5,084 Bitcoin. The other thing worth looking at is Bitcoin had two dips. It had a big flash crash in June of 2022. So you can see, look what happened to production in June of 2022. That was 3,947, down from 4,854 back in March. So in November, we had the FTX situation, and obviously we crashed even lower. So you'll see once again, we had a big decrease in the number of Bitcoin mined. What this shows me is there's a lot of self-curtailment still going on. People are turning machines on and off. Sometimes they're doing forced curtailment, but they're also self-curtailing. Those 5 months that I circled really line up with the lows and the highs of Bitcoin throughout the year for 2022. Just to take a quick look at the Bitcoin chart, this is what I'm talking about. If you remember, we had in March, we had a good month. Well, this date right here is March 28th. So this was the big rally of 2022. So of course, March was the big jump in 2022 in production. Obviously here we had a flash crash in June of 2022. So June was one of the low months of the year. We rallied up through August. August was one of the highest months of the year. October was the best month of the year, and you can see why, because after October, we had the FTX major crash down to an even lower low where it stayed for quite some time. So we have now recovered past that point. So I'm looking for January's number to be a new all-time record in the aggregate. If Bitcoin can stay at something over 21,000 without retesting these lows at 17,000 or 15,000, then I expect to see the exahash rate go up considerably for the North American Bitcoin miners in 2023. Obviously, the opposite of true. If we crash back down, I think you'll see self-curtailment like we've seen all year last year, and those numbers will get lower. Okay, so just as a summary, these are the companies that added the most exahash in 2022. So Core Scientific added 9.1 exahash in the year. In second place is Riot. They added 6.6 exahash. So Riot pretty much had a plan, and they very closely stuck to their plan in 2022. Next was Cleanspark. Cleanspark added 4.3 exahash. So not quite as much as Riot. However, as a percentage, Cleanspark basically tripled their exahash in the year 2022. So they operationally had a very good year. Marathon added 3.5 exahash. That was basically a double. They came into the year at 3.5. They came out of the year at 7. I do expect them to go to much bigger numbers in 2023. Then Cypher just jumped onto the scene. They didn't mine Bitcoin for the vast majority of the year, but by December, they had added 2.8 exahash of Bitcoin mining. Then you'll see Bitfarms at 2.3 exahash. That actually represents more than a double for Bitfarms, so that was a good year. And then TeraWulf essentially went from 0 to 1.5. So these are the only companies that added a substantial amount of exahash. Some companies actually ended up with less exahash at the end of the year than the beginning of the year. So again, I'm expecting this list to be much bigger in 2023. The one thing that could stand in the way of that is if Bitcoin continues into a crypto winter, these companies are going to have to change their plans. And if this continues for much longer, some of these companies aren't going to make it. So at the moment, we seem to be in a little bit of a rally. Whether this is a relief rally or we're moving into a bull market, we don't know yet. But But again, January, we did have a big increase in the price of Bitcoin. I'm expecting January to be the best month yet for the North American Bitcoin miners. We'll see how each one of them does. And obviously, I put out a video each month for each one of the miners as they release their operational reports. So that's what I got for you this weekend. I hope everyone's enjoying the weekend. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.